Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. This series, I am once again joined by my wonderful co-host, that darn Kitty.
Dorkus and I are sharing our experience reading The Way of Kings for the first time. Each episode, we will summarize what we've read and discuss the experience along the way.
This is Storming the Archives, The Way of Kings, and today we discuss the Interludes again.
The interludes! Again.
Interlude. Rhysand. Rhysand exits her caravan onto the soil and grass of Shinovar. She finds the soil and grass extremely strange. The soil sinks and the grass doesn't move. Her Babsk, the merchant Vistim, instructs her to set up a device intended to alert them of approaching people. She covers her safe hand even though she's Thaylen and finds the custom silly. As she reflects on the soil and the grass and the foliage, she feels as if the entire land here is slow of wit. Inspecting the soil, she thinks the whole place could be blown away by a strong wind, so it's good that the high storms can't reach these lands. The people Vistim intended to meet arrive. The Shin dress very colorfully. Rhysand comments on the many brown-clothed servants, but Vistim tells her they're his guards. In Shinovar, warriors are low in the caste system and farmers are high. Rhysand again thinks this place and these people are very strange. Vistim and the farmer, Thresh son Isan, he who adds, greet each other. The two work out their trades in a very humble manner. Vistim inquires about taking one of Thresh son Isan's guards, but they cannot be given to outsiders. Vistim reminds Thresh about the servant he had received 7 years earlier, but Thresh states that that was different because that servant had been truthless. He doesn't expect there will be another truthless, or at least he hopes not. Rhysand thinks the way the other two conduct their transaction is very strange. They seem to be trading junk. The trade concludes, and Vistim takes the opportunity to teach Rhysand. He tells her the Shin aren't odd, they're just different. Never try to cheat the Shin. Treat them honestly and they will pay you for it. Then he instructs her to take some of the grass and soil to take care of until she stops thinking of it as strange. Axes. Axes the Collector awakens naked and hung over in an alley. Disgusted by the scents in the alley, he sculpts his body so that he can no longer smell. A gruff person demands rent from Axes for sleeping in his alley. Axes focuses his will and removes his headache, then laments the things he has to do for scholarship. The gruff person, a homeless man living in the alley, accuses him of having destroyed the Temple of the Northern God and some other streets. Axes realizes the man is referring to the carefully arranged vegetables he had been sleeping on. The man asks if Axes is a herald or a voidbringer, to which Axes calls himself a voidbringer. Axes tricks the man into giving him some cloth to cover himself, then heads out into the eerie city. Many stare at him because his kind, Amiens, are rare. His shadow is cast the wrong way. He looks over his tattoos, certain he had written himself a note. Amiens can change the color and markings of their skin at will. The note regarded a successful attempt to see spren that appear only when extremely intoxicated. He contemplates what to call these mysterious spren. Axes thinks fondly of the eerie alley while making his way to a local dock. As scheduled, a spren surges out of the water. He writes a tattoo describing it as the largest spren he's ever seen. This spren, called Kusikesh the Protector, appears at the same time every day. Its face shifts into many changing human faces. As Axes ponders on Kusikesh, a street urchin yanks away his towel, causing local guards to arrest him. Axes, who has now seen 2 new spren in 2 days, looks forward to the opportunity to see captivity spren. Szeth. Szeth stands in the shadows of a gambling den, wearing a dramatic assassin's outfit. His master, Makek, has been using Szeth as a bodyguard and assassin, killing his business and criminal rivals. Szeth looks at the games those in the den are playing, thinking the games and the customs are strange. He thinks the distinction between betting on a chance outcome and hand after the roll is a meaningless distinction steeped in culture. No one, not even criminals, want to offend the heralds by seeking to know the future. Szeth has been questioning some of the prohibitions he once followed strictly, but those are dangerous thoughts. If he questions stone shamanism, he might then question his nature as truthless. He contemplates the afterlife. He believes it is better to exist in agony than to vanish entirely. Makek sends Zeth to kill a local rival. As Zeth makes his way to the rival's mansion, he takes care to avoid killing the guards, even going so far as to use his surge binding and other abilities. In avoiding unnecessary bloodshed, Zeth preserves what little humanity he has left. Zeth is concerned about Makek's growing notoriety. He doesn't want to be known as the assassin in white, and fears that war would be brought to Yakaved if someone were to make the connection. Zeth enters into his target's room to find that his would-be victim has already been assassinated. A mysterious person of unknown descent addresses Zeth as Zeth's son Naturo. The figure has been watching Zeth. He claims to be an admirer of the arts and believes Zeth's talents are being wasted. The figure likens Zeth unto a god. The figure knows Zeth is the assassin in white. Zeth believes that in killing Gavilar, he committed one of the most heinous slaughters in Roshar. The mysterious figure killed Makek shortly after Zeth had left the gambling den. Zeth's worst fear is realized. He is now owned by someone who knows the depths of his ability and how to use it. Zeth is given a list of targets to assassinate, including 6 High Princes, Asele Garantark, and the King of Yakaved. The figure uses a soulcaster to make his exit, but not before invoking his own master. So, I think this set of interludes was less subtle than the first set in the overarching themes present, which seem to me to be themes of cultural differences and
Mhm.
oddities, strangeness. What do you think?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. And building on what I said in the last chapisode about how unite them could mean the entire world, not just the Alethi, I feel like this, I think, hammers that idea further. Would you
Yeah,
agree?
emphasizes it, absolutely, yeah. I agree.
Emphasizes it. Yeah, that's the
Mm.
word. But we learn more about Shinovar. Yay!
Yeah, I'm very surprised. Did we have any indication of what Shinovar was like? I didn't have it in mind, so I was very surprised. I'm like, "Oh, okay, so there is a place where there's soil. There is." I guess
Mm-hmm.
I could have, if I thought about it long enough, could have figured out that, okay, well, duh, because these people don't walk on rocks. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I guess the idea is that Shinovar is protected from the high storms by a series of mountain ranges,
Mhm.
and it allows for what is essentially normal grass
Mhm.
or unmoving grass. Yeah, so like all the wildlife that we've seen thus far has that, like, it retracts and expands depending on the weather and the high
Mhm.
storms, but here
Yeah.
it does not.
Yeah. And, it's was so much fun to have the normal world be strange. I enjoy how Brandon Sanderson plays with that. You know, like we
Yeah.
had that in Mistborn with like, oh, this is the first time somebody had seen stars, you know, that sort of thing. So
Mhm.
this is the first time this person is standing on soil, and
Yeah.
grass is supposed to move away, and to her everything is sluggish because it's not moving away, but to us, I think what when we experienced the whole thing of the grass withdrawing and things like that, that seemed strange. That seemed halted and not growing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this character who finds this so strange doesn't just find Shinovar strange because
Mhm.
she wears something to cover her safe hand, and she herself is not of that culture
Mhm.
because she's the eyebrow culture. The name
Mhm.
escapes me right now, but she even thinks that custom is silly. So there's a little bit of narcissism. I don't necessarily mean like a full-throated I'm oh so good kind
Mhm.
of narcissism, but a more passive my way is base normal and everything else is
Self-centered. Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which
Which
begs the question, how young is she?
I don't know. Yeah. I'm not sure. She's apprenticed to someone, and
Mhm.
when you have a babsk, it's your father. It's illegally until you're done with your apprenticeship. So she's probably quite young anyway. She's got a lot to learn because that's why she has to basically look after that. She has to go and get some grass and put it in a pot and look after it. So she's on a nice journey to stop to learn to open her mind a bit.
Yeah. There are no spren here.
Yeah, interesting. That was like, what? Nothing? I
Yeah.
don't understand. Does that mean there's less energy there?
Well, here's the thing. Doesn't one of the Shin, either in this chapter or in Zeth's chapter, talk about how, like, the Shin can see spirits more so than the other people in some way?
I don't remember that. Either way, I don't remember
I'm
it.
I'm I'm pretty sure that idea appeared somewhere in the interludes.
It might have
And
been
it's like,
actually from Axes because he talks about he's the collector of Spren, so it might be there.
well, if it came from Axes, then never mind. But I feel
Mhm,
like I'm confident that idea is somewhere in this interlude, and it contrasts with
mm,
this whole "there's no spren here" idea.
mm. So maybe that it's just that they can't certain races can't see Spren. Yeah, interesting.
Or something like that, or like who they choose to appear to, or
It's different. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah. Then we get a well-respected person among the Shin. They wear colorful clothing and a long cape, like an overly long cape. And it's important to note for later that he has some sort of title in his name to the effect of "he who adds." And we'll reference this when we get to Zeth's chapter, I think. Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know if he who adds is an individual or if it is a god of theirs, a principle of theirs. I don't know. So I see
Yeah.
how it could be put to he who adds like literally this individual over here.
Right.
But
It could go to any farmer, essentially,
mm,
anyone who isn't one who takes away.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a title. That's the title of it. It's but I think yeah, because he could be referring to himself, but also at the same time he could be referring to a god or a principle.
You're
That
right.
that's what I got from this he who takes away, like he who he who adds is happy or something like that. It's like he could be talking about himself, but he also could be talking about a god, a deity of some sort.
Right.
Hmm.
And then Vistim
Hmm.
and this leader basically try to out humble each other, which is I like it. I'm a big fan of this.
Yeah, they're trying to say how worthless what they're giving is. It was a nice, it was an interesting exchange to behold.
Right.
Hmm.
And then during this interaction, we essentially learn that Vistim is probably the one who first owned Zeth,
Yeah,
yeah?
yeah, yeah. And he was just and being truthless is such a bad thing that you're he couldn't even accept payment for this for Zeth.
Yeah.
So it's even worse. It's even worse.
Vistim basically
Yeah.
forced a payment on
Mm,
the gardener, and the gardener was like, "I threw it in the river
yeah.
because I cannot accept payment for truthless."
Hmm.
But and it's noteworthy, they think stone is profane, and the metal that they bought from Vistim was transformed from not stone. It was
Yeah.
like twigs and shells and
Because you
stuff
don't
like
they
that.
didn't have to harm they didn't it wasn't from mining. That they love that they don't want stone to be harmed to get metal. They so this what's it soul cast metal is great for them. They're excited about it because it's a miracle. It's just synthesized and they're okay with that because it doesn't require mining.
Yes. And then we skipped over it a little bit, but essentially we learn that in Shin culture, anyone who touches a weapon,
Mhm.
they become a part of the lower end of the caste system, and they essentially become servants, not unlike what Zeth is.
Is it as instant as touching a weapon? I didn't get that. Did I just not read it properly?
I mean, I may have magnified it into more
Mm.
than what it was intended to be, but
Okay.
that was the impression that I had gotten.
Okay, like the
Essentially, is it, if you touch something, if or if you wield a weapon, you become one who takes away.
mm. Yeah, that makes sense. I would say if you wield the weapon, that's but like touching it maybe is just makes it's a culturally it's a bad thing, but it doesn't make you one who takes away. I think using it. But here we are guessing again at these deeper cultures that we just never that's just such slow going learning about them. But it's fascinating as we go.
Yeah, so it says Shin are a curious folk. Here, warriors are the lowliest of men, kind of like slaves. Men trade and sell them between houses by way of little stones that signify ownership, and any man who picks up a weapon must
Mm,
join them and be treated the same.
mm,
So, yeah, I think you're right. I may have magnified it there. Presumably, if you're picking up a weapon, you're doing so to use it.
mm,
I also, okay, so in my layman research of Rome, recently I keep coming across this idea of the citizen soldier farmer. The ideal in Rome, the way they liked to view themselves, was as humble farmers who became soldiers when necessary to defend
mm,
their state, their city. They go, they do the thing they need to do, and then they go back to farming, which is a very noble thing to do. This caste system of the Shin, which seems to revere farmers
mhm.
and seems to denigrate soldiers, had me thinking of that. It's where my mind went as just an interesting comparison.
They've got this very, very deep division between the different roles. And
Hmm.
whereas in Rome, it was like you do all of it. It's all part of life.
Yeah.
Mm.
And of course, this idea of one who takes away and one who adds has me
Mhm,
thinking of the physics of it. It's like, no, matter cannot be created or destroyed, it can only change.
mhm.
But
Even with
presumably,
the even with soul casting, you have to take
yeah,
one and change it into another.
yeah.
Mm,
But does that law of physics apply to the human soul?
mm,
Presumably, if you pick up a weapon, it is to end a life, or you are preparing to end a life. And can you quantify the human soul? Therefore, never mind.
This also
Something
relates
to
back to the, feminine versus masculine arts. In the previous chapters where we had that idea come up where it's the woman creates and the man destroys. So you
oh,
could
yeah.
you could think of the he who takes away or is the masculine energy, and even though it says he who adds is the feminine energy.
Yeah.
Mm,
Well said. And yeah, it's this recurring theme, this recurring topic,
mm.
which is well expressed. Yeah.
Well explored, yeah.
And then Vistim makes Reeson take care of a plant until she
Mhm.
considers it normal. So he seems like a nice guy, merchant,
Yeah,
honorable, honest.
wise
And
guy.
he said,
Mhm.
like, what's the difference between the Shin and the Herdasians? And she's smart enough to say, well, the Shin seem to like honesty, and I appreciate that. So
Yeah, that they actually she picked up on the fact that actually devaluing your goods was actually their form of haggling. It was weird. She doesn't seem to she doesn't quite understand how exactly it works, but she did note that okay, the way that they haggle seems to be with humbleness to say my goods are valueless. It's a very backwards. way of looking
Ye
at the world.
Yeah, and it's important to note here, he's not, like, saying to her, "You have to live your life this way, their way is the best way," but
Mhm.
he's saying, "If you're going to trade and be a merchant with these people, this is how they work, this is their worldview, and it would behoove you to understand that because it will
Yes.
inform how you interact with them."
Mhm. Exactly. It's not it's just to make you understand them. It's not to be them.
Yeah.
Mm.
But then we get to axes. Yeah?
Yes! I love this one.
So a couple of different things. Axes strikes me as a Puck-like figure from Midsummer Night's Dream. Would you
Mhm.
agree?
Yes, mischievous and just
Yeah.
and magical and just turning into stools and things. Yeah.
Yes, and he has a specific line, "The things I do for scholarship," at one point, and that immediately burned the question into my mind, are his people the ones who had been cataloging the death rattles in
Oh,
the
yeah.
first part of the book?
That's exactly what I did as well. Yeah, agreed.
Yep. Yep, yep,
Mhm.
yep. Uh, um, but fairly early on, we learn that Axes can physically change his body at will,
Mhm. Quite
which
drastically as
is neat.
well. Yeah.
Yeah, he can make it so that he can't smell,
Mhm.
which is neat, and he can, by force of will, get rid of his hangover.
Mhm. Yeah. That was that made me jealous. Yeah.
And his shadow is cast in the wrong direction.
Yeah, that would be an interesting way to see it. I don't know I'm like, "Okay, the book describes it, and I have a kind of an idea of what it looks like, but, will be interesting to see that visualized."
Yeah. So all of this to say there is definitely something very fey about him.
It's got blue nails too.
Yep. And chilling blue eyes or something
Mhm.
like that
Mhm.
too. Many tattoos. That's neat. If you can change your body,
Mhm.
why not make tattoos to just take notes for yourself or something?
Yeah, but, the comedic thing of it, it's like he at some point, he took notes in a very weird position, so he needed, like, mirrors and scribes or whatever to get his notes because he had made them, yeah, 2 mirrors and a confused person, yeah,
It's
but
it's Memento if Memento were a comedy.
mhm.
So he wakes up in this alleyway and he has some very interesting interactions with the homeless guy that lives there. And I wrote down some of the lines for us to discuss.
Mhm.
I wrote, "You destroyed the temple of the northern gods," or the northern god, or what have you. And the homeless guy also talks about like some other streets and homes
Mhm.
that Axes has destroyed.
Mhm.
And essentially he's talking about these vegetables that had been arranged in some sort of pattern. It's very funny, but
I loved the way that slowly became revealed because 'cause we're kind of coming awake with him as well because he's just and
yes.
he doesn't he's like, "What happened?" Because he doesn't know what he did when he was drunk.
Mhm,
So he doesn't know and he's like he's forgotten a lot of things. So we kind of are in this presence of, "Oh shit, no, he did destroy a temple." And and then it's like, oh, okay, then we get more of you kind of get
we
more clarity every line, and it becomes funnier and funnier.
Yeah, but you hit the nail on the head. The execution here was fantastic. We suddenly are introduced to someone who can change his body at will. He
Mm.
doesn't remember what he did, and someone accuses him of destroying a temple. Why wouldn't we believe that
Mhm.
he's someone who could make himself 50 feet tall and do that or
Yeah.
something? But that's not what happens. It's these vegetables that he fell asleep on. And
I I absolutely love that because he broke that and then he broke he destroyed the bakery, but then the guy says, "Well, the family wasn't home." And the way
yeah,
they just share he joins in with the guys delusion is so brilliant. This is honestly my favorite part of the book. This whole book was this whole scene. It was funny.
Very, very well done. And
Mm,
I feel like this entire interaction, all of the lines are
mm.
doing some sort of double meaning.
Oh yeah.
I think Sanderson is doing some sort of literary thing to tell us information about the character and the arc that he's
And
gonna
the
go on.
themes, everything. It's
Yeah, it
the
partic
every this homeless guy is looking over his crops like his city like a god. All of that, it makes us think of the themes in the book we've had thus far, like the candles and all of that, the control over men's lives, all of that, all in this comedic context was it was brilliant. So
yeah,
that lends significance to this. That's what I mean.
yes. The question, "Are you a Voidbringer or a Herald?" was one of those more specific lines, I think, that was designed to
Mm,
set up his arc. So his will be one of, are you order or are you chaos? We
mm,
know or we have made the comparison to Puck, who is this Peter Pan type, troublesome trickster type character. So
mhm.
the question feels very poignant.
He has an answer for himself. He decides he's a void bringer,
Yeah,
which still that doesn't change my opinion on what you said about his arc. Like, yeah, cool. At the moment, he thinks he's void bringer, but who knows?
right.
Mm,
And of course, then we get more hammering of the themes of this particular interlude of oddities.
mhm.
The Iriali were very particular about a lot of things. Of course, that could be said for most peoples. The only difference was the things they were particular about. Again, that's what Reeson was confronted with in the
Yeah,
last chapter.
that's
So
what
that
any
that was
culture, yeah, can be applied to any culture. That when you decide what your culture is particular about, that's your culture. That's describing the culture.
yeah. We learn that his race are the Amiens,
Mhm.
or he is Amian, and that his homeland had been scoured.
Yeah.
So his kind are rare and they make people uncomfortable, mostly because of the shadow thing. Well,
Mhm.
not mostly, but in part because.
They're very strange. They're very noticeable.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we get the phrase, the curse of kind. That sounds like karma to me, yeah?
The curse of kind? So, you things are returned in kind. That's what you thought.
Yeah, I think he was invoking the concept of karma.
For me, when he said the curse of kind is the curse of your kind, the curse of your race, because he was talking about his race at that point. He was talking about his people, and then he was like the curse of kind. He invoked the curse of kind as that could be the curse, as in your kind being different to another person's kind is a curse, which deals with the themes we pointed out in these interludes. But even so, karma is still a that also makes sense.
Interesting.
So the way I just heard it differently. I heard it as the curse of kind, as in it's a way to talk about your kind, not having things repaid to you in kind. But they both work.
Gotcha. Interesting. And then we also learn that Axes is on a quest to document essentially every spren out there and like give them a name or a
Hmm.
title of some kind,
Hmm.
which is a noble quest and one that I definitely tried to do when I
Yeah,
started the series.
we tried to give them all the
Mm.
colors and everything. It's like, oh gosh, that's also what made me laugh. It made me think of the section of our Canva. We've lost track
Yeah, of
long
course.
ago.
Yeah, I stopped a long time ago, but hey, don't give up, Axes. I believe in you. And then he goes to see Kusakesh, which is another kind of spren, and he gets arrested, which is unfortunate because it was the young vagrants that stole his towel.
Mm.
Um, but he takes it in stride in a very Puck-like manner, and he's like, "Well, at least maybe I can see some captivity spren now."
Lol,
Uh,
lol, lol, lol. It was actually
exactly.
your reference to the towel just makes me remember. Sorry, I'm hopping around, but it just made me remember with that conversation that we said was so significant with him and the homeless man. In that, he goes, only the sacred cloth. There was reference to the sacred cloth being able to get rid of the void bringer and whatever, and that's why he goes after him with the blanket. Basically, that's why then event
Yeah, it was
and he plays along with
a
him,
little
and yeah,
trick.
yeah. So he plays along with him and says, "Oh, be gone," and like uses that as the sacred cloth. You see, lol, 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 and then throws it at him, and that's how he gets the towel, and then it's taken away. So I don't know. I just wanted to mention that there is some sort of sacred cloth. I don't know what that is, but it seems like it's part of either it's part of culture and we just haven't heard about it, or it's just this man's just
I
it's just Axie's way of getting the towel.
That's what I was
Mm.
leaning toward
Mhm.
personally.
Mhm.
But it was a funny interaction
Yeah.
nonetheless.
And now he lost his sacred towel. His
Yeah.
sacred cloth.
And then we get to Zeth's chapter,
Mhm.
and we
Hold
pick
on.
up.
Whoa, Dorcas.
Why?
Are we not gonna comment on the massive spread? Hello?
Okay, so Kusakash.
Yeah.
Okay, I will say on Kusakash, he has a series of human faces. He appears
Mhm.
every day at the same place. He's the biggest spren Axes has ever seen, and his face shifts between several human faces. I did have to wonder if there is something prophetic in the
Mhm.
faces that are shown,
Mhm.
but I don't know that we'll ever get an answer to that.
Would we recognize any of those faces? I
Yeah.
agree with that. Also, just a thing that makes that even more ominous, or saying, "Hey, look at me," is that it faces the origin as well, and that just
Oh, yeah, that
makes you
was
makes
important.
yeah, that makes you think of Dalinar as well. He feels like everything comes from the origin as well. So he the voice. He always looks at the origin. So that's what makes me think of the propheticness of it. And then if we've got that in mind, we also get, I suppose, when as we go into Zeth's chapter, we get the idea of predicting the future being a very bad thing to do. So,
Yes.
mhm,
And it sounds like that goes back to what Adolin and the Ardent were talking about way, way long ago when the prophecy was misused
mhm,
so that they could gain a bunch of power, the Ardents and
yeah.
the religious hierarchy.
Yeah, so that makes sense that culturally it's not acceptable.
Yeah. So let's jump ahead super quickly into Zeth's chapter as we talk about what specifically makes someone truthless.
Mhm,
The passage that I had thought of was Makek had begun to believe those rumors. He hadn't yet demanded that Zeth relinquish the blade. If he did so, he would discover the second of Zeth's two forbidden actions. He was required to carry the blade until his death, after which Shin Stone shamans would recover it from whomever had killed him. So at the time, I was thinking, well, if you so much as touch a weapon, you become one who takes away.
mhm,
So presumably, whoever goes and recovers the shard blade from whoever kills Zeth then
mhm,
becomes truthless themselves. I don't know if that's how it actually works, but that is how I imagined it works, and I like it. I
mhm,
think that's kind of neat.
mhm. Do you think that all of those shaman people, they are also surge binders? They have to have that ability for them to be part of this church
I
thing.
I do actually, yeah.
Same.
Yeah. But to pretend to try and go chronologically, Makek has been taking advantage of Zeth in a slightly flamboyant manner.
Yeah.
I say slightly. He's got the guy dressed up as an assassin, and he's in his gambling den with ladies on each arm.
Mm,
Makek sends Zeth to take on some new rival. go and assassinate some new rival. And Zeth walks there and he starts thinking about his situation. It's noteworthy that he at one point questions the Shin's cultural norms and
Mhm.
expectations, and these are dangerous thoughts because then he would question what it means to be truthless, and that's important because he's about to be enslaved to someone really, really bad.
Mhm.
But he could so easily think, well, what if I don't have to be truthless? I can just leave. Because it sounds like these stones may not necessarily, it sounds like it's a cultural
Yep.
decision, not
Dorkus.
a curse. Yeah, go on.
Doesn't this make you think of Kandra?
Oh,
It made me think of
very much
Arister
so.
turning, like, turning against your whole religion, your whole worldview in order to make your own decisions and value yourself differently. That's very dangerous. That's very heretical. So it made me
Overlapping
think,
Sanderson.
yeah, I like the way he plays with those kinds of themes.
Oh, I did not make that connection, but I love that connection.
Yeah. I don't know if it's how comparable it is. I'm sure there's lots of differences, but just it just did make me think of, okay, you are in a worldview. You have what that we've encountered that with what is magic, like what is reality, and what is just belief with the Kandra. So
Yeah,
that's what we're dealing with over here with the Shin, where it's like he can think something different that makes him more than truthless, not just the scum of the earth.
yeah,
He's damned himself completely in principle. That's it, according to his culture. Yeah.
right. And it sounds like he's not quite ready to make that leap quite yet.
Not yet.
And there
Yeah.
was this really wonderful passage. Though his murders and sins would damn him, at least his soul would be given to the stones upon his death. He would continue to exist, punished in agony, but not exiled to nothingness. Better to exist in agony than to vanish entirely. What a
Yeah.
crazy passage. What
Highlighted that
really,
too. Yeah.
yeah.
What do you think of that? I was like, "Wow, I don't know if I agree."
Well, my mind goes to Arya Stark saying, death isn't anything, it's
Mhm,
just nothing.
mhm,
But I so it's like depressed people who don't want to get help
mm,
because who am I? Like they take the depression upon themselves and take it to be who they are.
mhm.
So it's like I cannot take that first step because I don't know who I would be. And just as an ideological perspective, yeah, the concept of not existing scares me
Mm.
a bit.
So you would rather exist in agony than in lack of existence? There's no
I
relief
don't
in,
know.
yeah, that for
I
me, I'm like, I don't know about that." If I don't exist, then I don't feel pain, but I suppose that's valuing existence above all, above
yeah,
comfort in existence. Existing isn't about whether it's good or bad, it's about just doing it. So, hmm, it's an interesting worldview to have, that he would rather continue. It's like saying, I would rather be in damnation than
yeah,
oblivion.
yeah. And in terms of like actual life and death, I'm not gonna sit here and pretend to know what happens after we die. I don't
Ah, I
particularly
thought
wanna
you
die.
knew.
Oh, sorry,
Oh,
Kite.
that's why I'm
Uh,
here. Been trying to figure it out.
I don't know what happens after we die. I imagine that there is some sort of elevation of some kind. It's really, really hard for me to imagine not existing
Mhm.
after existing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what.
Beyond
y-
comprehension.
Yeah. So I'm saying all of this to say I really feel for you, Zeth, on these
Mhm,
topics.
mhm,
I get you.
mhm.
There was a funny line. Zeth's reputation was inaccurate. he was far, far more dangerous than it suggested.
You found that funny? I found it ominous. I was like, "Mhm, that's crazy." Do you found it you
Yeah.
thought you just the tone of it was lol.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, he's hiding his power level.
He is more dangerous. He is. It's highly factual. Yes, indeed.
Yep. And then Zeth, we learn, is taking some leeway in his use of his abilities that he would prefer to keep hidden
Mm,
because doing so allows him to avoid unnecessary bloodshed. These are qualities that make me like Zeth even more,
yeah.
but he is worried about whether or not this could reveal him as the assassin in white to dangerous people and bring about war.
Mhm. He actually starts thinking about well, actually, no, at the end, we get reference to pillars of the earth kind of thing, and that just makes me think of the previous chapter's epigraph there.
Yeah.
Mm.
He makes it to his victim only to find out that the victim had been assassinated first, which is ominous.
It was so dramatic. So well done. Very, very well done.
Yeah. I like the head is just there on the table.
Mhm.
And then we get the mysterious figure who serves an even more mysterious master.
Mhm.
And this figure likens Zeth unto a god,
Mhm.
which is this guy's crazy.
Yeah, but he wants Seth to embrace all of this and just be like, "You're a god, you're more powerful than anyone, do it," you know? In which case,
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, if he then that rock means nothing, that little pebble, that means nothing to him. Then you really do have a problem on your hands because he's in nobody's control then." So but
Yeah.
if he's in his own control, it seems like he would actually just, I don't know, go and grill. He wouldn't go and do anything. He would, "Please just leave me alone. I don't need to." He seemed like a good guy underneath it all. But
Yeah.
this guy's corrupt to the core.
I've got major evil vibes from
Mhm.
this mysterious figure. Absolutely.
What make he
And
holds sorry, I just wanna this guy is holding this ownership pebble rock thing, right? But
mhm,
he is holding this on behalf of his master because
correct.
now that makes me think back to us whether we're talking about this rock thing being cultural or magic. Because if this guy was holding that rock, and that means he could overtake his master very easily with Seth, which is what this guy's been doing.
Yes, but I also got the sense that this mysterious master guy is much. I got the sense that Zeth may be small potatoes compared to the power of this mysterious
Mm,
master, if that
yeah.
makes sense.
I
No,
also I get the idea
yes,
that he's devoted to this master, so it doesn't really matter anyway.
true. Yes, absolutely.
Mm.
Zeth is a tool to this guy who works on behalf of the master.
Mhm,
So who knows? We get Zeth's family name,
mhm,
Zeth son Naturo.
mhm,
Just thought that was noteworthy.
mhm. And more of the shame that comes with Truthless is like, "Don't associate my name with my father's."
Yep.
That's why is that why you have to say "son, son"? Or I don't know.
Yeah, I wondered about that
Mm,
too. Because there was only one son in
mhm.
the Shinovar chapter,
Yeah.
but in the previous Zeth chapters, it was son Volano, and
Mm,
here it's Zeth son Naturo.
mhm.
So interesting.
Yeah, maybe "son, son" is for all of the Truthless? I don't know. More of the culture, good lord.
Yeah. And then this is the chapter where we get the phrase, I am he who takes away. I don't think we got that in the recent chapter,
No.
but it sort of fills in the mystery of what that line, he who adds,
Mm,
started in the recent chapter. And the line here is, I am he who takes away. At least in the killing of men such as these, I can pretend to be doing a service. I thought this was a great line.
mm. It shows also how rigid his culture is. It's like it's either you're giving or you're taking away. You can't take away for the service of, like, kill for a good reason. He's just trying to get what he can out of his situation. And it goes
Mhm.
all the way back to Kaladin's dilemma about being a surgeon versus being a soldier. Do we give or do we
Yeah.
take away? Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm building on that with this whole, like, how are you framing this thing? The mysterious man responds to that line with, "This from the man who nearly toppled one of the greatest kingdoms in Roshar." And then Zeth responds, "This from the man who committed one of the most heinous slaughters in Roshar." Zeth corrected. Another great line.
Mhm. Very epic.
Yeah. And then, oh man, the cliffhanger of this chapter, the list of targets.
Mhm.
The king of Yaakoved, 6 high princes, some other guy.
And there's instructions on how some of them have to die as well. Very
Mhm.
why? Why do we need to kill them in a certain way? Don't we just want everybody dead? Interesting. What? Does it need to fulfill some sort of prophecy? Does it have to look a certain way? It's just chaos basically is he knows the implications of all of this. And yeah, nicely done, Sanderson. 6 high princes, and you're like, oh my gosh. So which of them are they? Uh,
Not Dalinar, I hope. Yeah, so I feel like this next section is going to be ominous.
mhm.
Like we're going to kick it into high gear. Things are going to get very dangerous very quickly.
Just in this episode of what is the part called? The previous part was the enlightening storms, I think it was, and this part that we're going into now is called dying. So I think that fits with what you've just said. So it seems like this is a problem. The things are heating up quite badly. This is dying. This part is called dying, the one that we're coming to. Hmm.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Anything else to say on this?
It was great to do a great big chunk of them. I enjoy that.
Y- Yeah, very fun. I think doing the interludes together was a good choice. I'm
Mm,
glad, especially now that we see that there will be consistent themes between all 3 interludes.
yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great rest of your week. Subscribe to That Darn Kitte if you get a chance, because she's got a great channel. And we'll see you next time. Okay,
See you
thanks,
next
bye.
time.